Let me tell you about the night I discovered how deeply unoriginal men can be. Like, when it comes to cheating, do they get a discount if they all use the same playbook? Because Sarah, work, seriously, Jason, at least try to be a little creative with your lies. I stared at the backed up text messages, a knot forming in the pit of my stomach. Sarah, work, sounds like someone a little too eager to climb the corporate ladder, if you know what I mean. But that wasn't the worst part. No, the worst part was I couldn't stop seeing it. Sarah, work flashing in my head every time I looked at Jason, every time he smiled at me. Which was often, because as far as he knew, his double life was safe. Okay, maybe I'm jumping ahead. It was just one text. Sure, it was a flirty text, saved on his phone like the damn crown jewels. But people get sloppy, right? Beth said it was probably nothing, but Beth also thinks I get jealous too easily. Which, rude, I'm not jealous, I'm observant. Meticulous even. A tiny suspicion had been planted, and now I couldn't stop watering it. Nights were the worst. Jason would be snoring softly beside me, smelling of his generic cologne that I'd always tolerated, not loved. Suddenly, it was the scent of betrayal. I'd lie there, trying to decipher muffled words as he mumbled work stuff in his sleep. Maybe he was saying, Sarah. Maybe they called each other, babe, and he just slipped up. Sleep? Forget it. I was practically a professional insomniac now. So, discreetly checking Jason's company directory felt like the next logical step, right? Sarah less, obviously. Did this man think I was an idiot? I chewed the inside of my cheek, tasting bitter disappointment. Was I overreacting? Then came the call, midnight, supposedly from his boss. I was half asleep, but his side of the conversation? Far too awake sounding. And then, the giggle. A woman's giggle, low and soft and distinctly not mine. The phone call ended abruptly, Jason with a mumbled, love you too, bye. Love you too? I stared at the ceiling, the darkness feeling suffocating. My mind was a hurricane of questions. Who the hell giggles with their boss? Who says, love you, on a work call? And most of all, who is he trying to fool? The next morning was fueled by caffeine and a cold sense of purpose. You know that scene in movies where the betrayed wife smashes things, or has a meltdown in the kitchen, surrounded by broken dishes and her mascara-streaked face. Yeah, not so much. There was something almost unnerving about how normal I felt. Jason, bless his lying heart, was none the wiser. He made me coffee, kissed my cheek, all while I sipped and smiled, my brain whirring with an icy calm. Okay. Maybe once he'd left, I threw the decorative pillow across the room with a satisfying curse. But just the one. I had work to do. Or, well, not my actual work. More like detective work. I may not have a trench coat, but hey, yoga pants are comfy. So, step 1. Operation Observe the Cheater. Jason's new habits were obvious. Hitting the gym at odd hours, ditching his baggy business casual for clothes that actually fit, and oh, the cologne. The guy smelled like the overly dramatic soundtrack of a daytime soap opera. And then there were the texts. Sarah. Work seemed to be his new favorite pastime. Their little conversations were so infuriatingly vague. Itches that needed scratching, drinks after work, inside jokes I wasn't privy to. Beth told me I was driving myself crazy, but hey, crazy can be resourceful. Which brings us to the plan. Beth, bless her loyal and slightly unhinged heart, wouldn't stand for this. We stake him out, she declared over spicy takeout. We find out who the hell this woman is. The tracker had revealed Jason's little detour spot, a trendy-looking bar near his office. A little, accidental, run-in, we figured, would give me all the confirmation I needed. I wish I could say I felt empowered driving there, ready to unleash some righteous fury. Instead, there was a lump in my throat, a mix of nausea and a desperate sort of curiosity. I parked a safe distance away, hands clammy on the steering wheel. This was so not my usual modus operandi. Wasn't I the responsible one? The predictable one? But hey, desperation makes you do weird things. And then I saw him. Through the window. Sitting at a corner table and grinning. Not across from some sleek bombshell, but Linda. freaking Linda from accounting, with her sensible haircut and bland cardigan. A wave of heat swept through me. Not righteous fury this time, something more potent. Disappointment tinged with deep-seated anger. I could have stormed in there, made a scene. A part of me wanted to, but I didn't. I turned away from the window, walking back to my car with a strange determination hardening in my gut. The pathetic reality of the situation was hitting home. My husband, the guy the first built a life with, wasn't having some whirlwind romance. He was sneaking off for drinks with a woman whose most interesting feature was her expertise with spreadsheets. No grand confrontations, no public humiliation. He didn't deserve some epic showdown. He deserved proof, irrefutable, undeniable evidence of his boring little affair. And then, well, then I was going to make him truly sorry. The tracker app became my little poison. A few innocent-looking taps on my phone screen, and I knew exactly where Jason was at any given moment. At first, it was a tool for confirming those vague work commitments. The little hovering over a secluded park during lunch hour? Yeah, definitely not about budget spreadsheets. The evenings supposedly spent slaving away at the office? False. Turns out his side hustle involved upscale bars, not overtime. His carelessness was astounding. Seriously, the man was leaving a breadcrumb trail of evidence with the savvy of a cartoon villain. His phone, once password protected with military-grade encryption, was now carelessly unlocked. He wore the scent of some cheap, floral perfume like a badge of honor. And worst of all, he became predictable. His lies had a pattern now, and I knew it better than I knew the back of my hand. Then, a curveball. Enter the private investigator. Hiring him was a moment of what can only be described as calculated madness. Yes, I felt a pang of guilt at the thought of outright spying on my own husband. But as I scrolled through photos of Jason laughing with women who were definitely not from accounting, that guilt curdled into something cold and hard. Let's just say, he better be glad I believe in the legality of divorce, not the DIY options. Okay, so maybe I'm being a bit dramatic. But let me tell you, Beth was practically gleeful when I broke down and confessed the whole pie scheme. See, I told you this guy is scum, she cackled, pouring us another dangerously large glass of wine. Then, the call came. The pie had news, and with a sinking feeling, I hit speakerphone. It wasn't Linda, which, hey, maybe that was worse. The name he provided was Jessica. Young, vibrant, the type of intern who probably still giggled at memes. Which would suit Jason perfectly, as it turns out. A wave of nausea washed over me, mingled with a jolt of something fiercer. Not just anger now, but a strange, twisted determination. You want rage, the white-hot, blinding kind? That was me, holding my phone so tightly it might crack. Humiliation settled in, a gnawing ache in the pit of my stomach. And yet, beneath it all was a flicker of something else. Resolved, let's just say my pity party didn't last long. Jason wasn't getting off easy. It was time to switch tactics. Time for this, victim, to reclaim the game. You know those movies where the woman stares at her reflection, a flicker of something cold in her eyes, and then the epic makeover montage begins? Yeah, that wasn't me. My transformation was far more subtle, less triumphant girl power soundtrack, more calculated chess move. I became an observer, a gatherer of ammunition. Every interaction with Jason was dissected and filed away. Those vague excuses, the nervous lies. I cataloged them all, turning my hurt into a weaponized to-do list. Then came the bombshell, delivered by our not-so-friendly neighborhood tracker app. Jason, my predictable husband, wasn't just skulking around bars and parks. He was hitting up a shockingly high-end lingerie store. The realization hit me like a bucket of ice water. He wasn't buying generic birthday presents, he was outfitting somebody. And it sure as hell wasn't me. Now, I'm not one for public breakdowns unless strategically necessary. But there may have been a few muffled sobs into my pillow that night, followed by something new. A steely resolution that replaced the tears. I needed proof. Actual, undeniable, shove it in his lying face proof. And so began the most uncomfortable stakeout of my life. Tailing Jason felt like a poorly scripted spy movie. Me lurking behind oversized sunglasses, sipping terrible coffee, watching him emerge from a sleek office building and meet Jessica in a little cafe across the street. And they weren't discussing quarterly reports, let me tell you. The way they laughed, the way he touched her arm. It was like something inside me finally shattered into a million tiny pieces. But here's the twist. Alongside the pain, I felt an unfamiliar lightness. For months, I'd let myself be defined as the clueless wife, the boring other half. In some twisted way, Jason's betrayal was liberating. So yes, my world might be cracking, but instead of shrinking away, I did the opposite. A haircut, not some drastic change, but enough to shake off the invisible weight I'd been carrying. A few bold pieces added to my wardrobe, a splash of bright lipstick I'd never dared wear before. Beth, the ever-supportive instigator, dragged me out one night. Fake it till you make it, she claimed, buying me a drink with a ridiculously long name. Which, apparently, was just the fuel I needed. Enter Mike. We met at the bar, his smile easy, his eyes actually seeming to see me and not just through me. Our conversation was light, inconsequential, yet it ignited a spark I'd forgotten existed. Guilt pricked at me, sure. But beneath that, a thrill bubbled up. Turns out, being desired again feels pretty damn good. This knew me. She wasn't born of revenge, not entirely. Jason's affair had cracked something open, a side of myself I'd buried beneath sensible sweaters and predictable routines. Maybe I should be afraid of her, this bolder, less forgiving woman taking shape. For now, though, I'd embrace her. She'd be the one getting me through this mess. Let's be honest, this isn't just about catching Jason in a lie anymore. This is about rediscovering myself. So what's next, you ask? Maybe we dive into Mike, a harmless flirtation or more. Or we could follow Jason to whatever love nest he set up with Jessica, get that incriminating photo. So, tell me more about Mike the Mysterious. Beth purred over her second, was it her third? Glass of overly sweet white wine. Is he as handsome as he sounds? I took a careful sip, savoring the burn in my throat. Truthfully, Mike was starting to blur into a general concept of attractive man giving me attention. He's nice, funny, and shockingly not married, I added with a pointed glance at my empty ring finger. Beth cackled. Damn, girl, you are embracing this whole revenge hottie aesthetic. She topped off my glass. Speaking of, how are those little surprises for Jason going? A slow grin spread across my face. Our scheming sessions had become a mix of manic energy and twisted satisfaction. The seeds of doubt were planted, an earring mysteriously discovered on the bathroom floor, definitely not mine. A cryptic lipstick-stained note slipped in his briefcase. Jason had started looking over his shoulder, a skittishness replacing his smug confidence. He deserved every ounce of paranoia. The weekend at the spa with Beth was exactly the kind of ridiculousness I needed. Luxurious facials, terrible reality TV, and a shocking amount of gossip. Amidst the laughter, there was also a moment of vulnerability. Over one too many cucumber cocktails, I spilled the truth. Not about Mike, but about the extent of Jason's betrayal. The hotel bookings the pie had dug up, the proof of their little trysts laid out in brutal detail. Beth, bless her loyal heart, had gone from wicked amusement to spitting nails. That cheating bastard is going down in flames, she declared, her voice a fierce whisper amidst the tranquil spa ambience. Something flickered to life within me. It wasn't just anger anymore, but also a grim sort of determination. Back at home, the act I'd been keeping up for weeks felt different. Before, there was a sense of waiting for the final blow, counting the hours until the inevitable breakdown. Now, I was a woman with a plan, fueled by a strange mix of sorrow and cold-blooded resolve. With each playful text to Mike, each carefully feigned sigh of disappointment for Jason's late nights at the office, I honed my weapon. This wasn't about another man. It was about proving something to Jason, but mostly to myself. There was an odd freedom in giving up on playing the perfect wife. Instead of the usual treadmill routine, the gym became a battlefield. Every pound lifted, every drop of sweat, was an act of defiance. I was rebuilding myself, not for anyone else, but because this broken woman deserved to become someone new. You know that feeling in horror movies right before the big jump scare? Like, the music gets all ominous, the lighting shifts, and you know something's coming even if you don't want it to? That was the vibe in my house all week. Jason was on edge, practically jumping at shadows. His questions about my schedule, once mundane and predictable, now had a nervous undercurrent. Another yoga class. Are you sure you're not, I don't know, taking up karate or something? He joked, but there was no laugh in his eyes. I played dumb, the concerned wife routine perfected through hours of practice. Inside, though, a thrill was building. The hunter, not the hunted, that's who I was becoming. Our anniversary rolled around with all the warmth of a tax audit. Jason presented me with a pair of diamond earrings, absurdly expensive, guilt practically radiating off them in waves. I accepted with a tight smile, already imagining them nestled amongst the evidence I'd collected. Revenge, it seems, looks great accessorized with diamonds. That night, I dressed with meticulous care. My work dinner outfit wasn't a defeated admission of middle-aged complacency. It was powerful, a statement piece, hugging my newly toned body with a confidence I'd forgotten I had. Beth, ever my voice of reason, or unhinged supporter, depending on the day, tried to intervene. Listen, sending cryptic notes is one thing, but this? She gestured towards my sleek pantsuit. This is next-level scheming. I kissed her cheek, a smile playing on my lips. Sweet Beth, sometimes a girl's just gotta go big or go home, right? The hotel, same one Jason frequented with Jessica. I'd memorized the layout, down to the discreet fire exits for that dramatic post-confrontation getaway. Checking into my room, one floor above theirs, felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Tension coiled in my gut, but so did a strange giddiness. The next hour was a whirlwind of calculated actions. Room service order meticulously timed, a half-eaten meal arranged to suggest a hasty exit, a single glass of wine with bright red lipstick smeared on the rim. I left the door slightly ajar, the final flourish for the tableau of betrayal about to play out downstairs. A nagging doubt crept in as I sat in the armchair, hidden in the darkness. Was I really ready for this? To witness the culmination of my careful planning, the final, undeniable proof I'd craved? Or was I still that same woman who'd stumbled across a text and let her life unravel? The truth was, I didn't know anymore. Maybe both versions of me existed now, fueled by sorrow and a thirst for justice that tasted like bitter victory. Okay, so maybe I went a bit overboard with the lipstick on the wine glass. But hey, when you're engineering a dramatic showdown, subtlety is not your friend. The note slipped under their door was equally unsubtle, designed for maximum shock value. And as I watched on the tracker app, a twisted satisfaction bloomed in my chest as their littled, ascended to the correct floor. Chaos, thy name is me. Or at least, the new, slightly unhinged me. My carefully timed knock came next, loud and purposeful, followed by my panicked sprint back to the sanctuary of my room. It felt like a lifetime passed, filled with the rapid thudding of my own heart, before the sounds of confrontation filtered through the door. Muffled shouting, Jason's bewildered tone, Jessica's voice high and shrill in denial. There was a crash, a muffled curse, and then the sound that made my stomach clench. A door slamming shut. Phase 2. Enter Mike, my unwitting accomplice. My finger hovered over the send button, a strange hesitation mingling with the thrill of playing this final card. In the end, a desperate sort of recklessness propelled me forward. Maybe I needed someone else to witness the culmination of this mess, a reminder to the shattered woman in the hotel room that there might be life beyond all this. Or maybe it was just about twisting the knife a little more. The wait was excruciating. Each ticking minute ratcheted up the tension, adrenaline coursing through me like a live wire. And then, the knock. Not the hesitant kind, but the pounding, impatient sort that demanded answers. I steeled myself and swung the door open. Surprise. The word hung in the air, a smirk playing on my lips. I'd gone for purposefully disheveled, a messy knot of hair instead of my typical sleek ponytail, the hint of smeared mascara underlining my eyes. Artistry in the service of deception. Jason stood frozen, his expression a mask of shock and the first stirrings of horror. His carefully constructed lies were crumbling in real time, and the satisfaction that surged through me was almost intoxicating. And just when I thought it couldn't possibly get any better. Did I miss something? Mike's voice echoed down the hallway, confused and a little bit amused. The next few minutes are a blur. The shouting match in the cramped hotel corridor, Jessica making a tearful beeline for the elevators, Jason sputtering incoherent excuses. The manager appeared, looking scandalized and probably wondering when this would turn into a pay-per-view event. Beth, ever the true friend, swears she could hear my cackle of bitter victory from 3 counties over. The fallout was messy, and the gossip that swirled around our small town would have been mortifying to the old me. But this woman, the one rebuilding herself in the aftermath of betrayal, she carried it with a defiant tilt of her chin. Packing up and leaving Jason's carefully curated world felt like shedding dead skin. Do I regret any of it? Honestly, sometimes. There are nights when the echo of the shouting match still jolts me awake. But those moments are becoming fewer and farther between. The legalities, the lingering bitterness, the pain of starting over. It all fades a little more each day. I'm not naive enough to think this was a clean ending, a magical fix. But it was an ending, one that I wrote for myself. Isn't that what truly matters? You know those old suitcases with stickers from exotic places, a hint of adventures had and stories to tell? I always figured my life would be more like a sensible carry-on, neatly organized and rolling along a predictable path. Clearly, life had a twisted sense of humor. A year had passed. A year since the hotel showdown, the dramatic exit, the flurry of legalese that finalized the end of a marriage. My new apartment was still sparse, but it was mine. The gym had become a second home, the burn in my muscles a familiar, oddly comforting ache. And as for a social life? Well, the jury was still out on whether blind dates arranged by well-meaning friends were helpful or the eighth circle of hell. Beth, of course, was there through it all. Our nights out had shifted from wine-fueled scheming to messy karaoke marathons. "You're getting over him," she'd declare mid-song, her voice slightly off-key but resolute. "And also, you totally need to work on your high notes." Sometimes, tucked away amidst the laughter, a flicker of doubt would arise. Had I done the right thing? Had all that scheming made me as twisted as Jason? But dwelling in the land of what if was a sucker's game, like driving in reverse with your eyes glued to the rearview mirror. Then there was Mike, his random, "How are you?" Texts had become a sporadic, unwelcome reminder of that night. Initially, they'd brought a bittersweet thrill, a glimpse of that defiant woman I'd briefly been. But now they just annoyed me. Hitting delete felt oddly satisfying. Some tools, after all, are one-time use only. Running into Jason was unavoidable in our small town. He looked diminished, shoulders slumped, the spark of self-satisfaction snuffed out of his eyes. Sometimes, a flicker of pity would stir in me, but I'd stomp it down ruthlessly. He didn't deserve my sympathy, let alone a place in my thoughts. Life, for once, refused to be neatly compartmentalized. Days blurred between challenging, disastrous first dates should earn hazard pay, and surprisingly okay. Beth and I finally mastering our karaoke duet. There were moments when the past threatened to suck me back in, but the urge to simply curl up and quit was lessening. One morning, an unplanned detour took me past a shop with a window display I couldn't ignore. A sleek travel backpack, adorned with colorful stickers from destinations unknown. Something sparked in me, a flicker of possibility. I caught my reflection in the glass. A woman, yes, but not one defined by a broken marriage. There were lines around my eyes, marks of both laughter and tears. There were scars, not all visible, but woven into the fabric of who I was now. I saw a survivor, a woman who had been knocked down and gotten back up again. Maybe it was time to add a few new stickers to my metaphorical suitcase. As I walked away, chin tilted just the slightest bit higher, I knew the adventure wasn't over. It was just beginning. What form it would take, I didn't know, but that was half the thrill, wasn't it? Because now, more than ever, this messy, complicated life. The plane touched down in Rome, a city dripping with history that promised delicious food and endless gelato. Stepping off the plane, I looked over at Sarah, expecting the usual wide smile and excited spark in her eyes. Instead, she fumbled with her phone, a frown creasing her forehead. "Everything all right?" I asked, grabbing her hand to navigate the bustling airport. "Yeah, just. Gotta text my mom real quick," she mumbled, tapping away furiously. Now, Sarah texted her mom about everything, even the color of the socks she wore that day. But this felt different. The urgency, the furrowed brow, it gnawed at me. We cleared customs, grabbed our luggage, and settled into a taxi headed towards the hotel. Still glued to her phone, Sarah barely acknowledged the bustling Roman streets. My gut clenched. This wasn't just a mom text. Finally, she put the phone down, a strained smile plastered on her face. "So excited for Rome, babe," she chirped, a little too brightly. "Me too," I said, trying to match her enthusiasm. But my mind raced with questions. What was she texting her mom about? Was it something serious, or something else entirely? We reached the hotel, a charming little place with a flower-filled courtyard. As we checked in, Sarah's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, her smile faltering for a split second before she shoved it into her pocket. Enough was enough. Back in our room, I waited until she was in the bathroom, then snuck a peek at her phone resting on the nightstand. It was open on a text message with a name I didn't recognize, Mark. My heart hammered in my chest. My eyes scanned the message exchange. It was short, just a few lines, but it sent a jolt through me. "Can't wait to see you again soon," it read. Sarah's response was a single smiley face emoji, followed by a quickly deleted sentence that I couldn't quite catch. The deleted message fueled my suspicion. What was she hiding? A wave of anger, hot and immediate, washed over me. The bathroom door creaked open. Sarah froze when she saw me holding her phone. "What are you doing?" she snapped, her voice tight. The question hung in the air, heavy and loaded. It was time for answers. My stomach churned as Sarah snatched her phone back, her eyes blazing. "It's nothing," she hissed, shoving the phone into her purse. "Just a friend." But friend didn't explain the deleted message or the way her cheeks flushed a guilty pink. "A friend named Mark who can't wait to see you again?" I countered, my voice flat despite the rising anger boiling inside me. Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Sarah avoided my gaze, fidgeting with the strap of her purse. "Look," she finally said, her voice strained, "it's not what it seems. We used to work together, that's all." The explanation felt hollow. Then why the deleted message? She hesitated, then mumbled something about changing her mind about what to say. It was a flimsy excuse, and I knew it. But instead of pressing further, I took a deep breath. Accusing her in the heat of the moment wouldn't solve anything. I needed proof, something concrete. The rest of the day felt like a blur. We toured the Colosseum, its grandeur lost on me as my mind replayed the message on her phone. We wandered through the Trevi Fountain, the romantic atmosphere tainted by the suspicion gnawing at me. By evening, we were in a tapas bar, the air thick with the aroma of sizzling garlic shrimp. Sarah, however, barely touched her food, picking at her plate with a distracted frown. Then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Hey beautiful, having fun in Rome?" My blood ran cold. This wasn't some random message. It was sent to my phone, not hers. An icy dread filled me. This wasn't just some flirtatious text. It was a deliberate taunt, a dare. I slammed the phone on the table, the clatter drawing stares from the other patrons. Sarah looked up, her eyes widening in alarm. "What's wrong?" I met her gaze, a cold fury hardening my features. "Who is Mark?" I demanded, my voice low and dangerous. The question hung in the air, a challenge. Sarah's face drained of color. Her lips trembled, but no answer came. I knew then, with a chilling certainty, that this trip, a romantic European adventure, had become a nightmare. The tension in the tapas bar was thicker than the garlicky sauce drowning my shrimp. Sarah hadn't touched a bite, her phone clutched in a white-knuckled grip. My own phone buzzed again, the unknown number flashing on the screen. This time, The message was a picture of Sarah, laughing with a group of people at a bar. But one person stood out. A tall guy with messy brown hair, the same mark from her phone. My vision swam. It was him, no doubt about it. This wasn't some past coworker. This was something present, something real. Who is this? I demanded, shoving the phone across the table. The picture practically screamed, with 1,000 unspoken words. Sarah's face crumbled. The mask of nonchalance she'd worn all day finally slipped. Tears welled up in her eyes. It's just a picture from work, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Burke. This is a bar, Sarah, I said, my voice tight with anger and betrayal. We went out for drinks after a project, she mumbled, avoiding my gaze. The flimsy excuse was an insult to my intelligence. And Mark? The guy practically has his arm around you. My voice rose a notch. We're just friends, she cried, tears spilling down her cheeks. Friends? The picture, the deleted messages, the unknown number on my phone, all these screamed otherwise. My heart pounded in my chest, a trapped bird desperate to escape. Then why the secret texts? Why the hidden phone calls? I pressed, my voice shaking with a mix of fury and hurt. Silence descended, heavy and suffocating. Sarah choked back a sob, unable to meet my eyes. In that silence, the truth hung heavy in the air, a truth I no longer wanted to ignore. The night we were supposed to celebrate our love in a romantic European getaway had turned into a battleground of accusations and shattered trust. The dream vacation was over, replaced by a cold, hard reality. Suddenly, I felt a surge of a different emotion, a chilling calmness. I knew then that this trip, this relationship, was beyond saving. The evidence was overwhelming, and the trust, once strong, had been shattered beyond repair. Let's just get back to the hotel, I said finally, my voice devoid of emotion. The rest of the evening was a blur. We paid the bill in a tense silence, hailing a cab back to the hotel. The city lights, once vibrant and exciting, now seemed cold and unforgiving. Back in the hotel room, I packed my things with a mechanical efficiency, my emotions numbed by the betrayal. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, her face a mask of misery. Where are you going? She whispered, her voice barely audible. I can't stay here with you, I said simply, the words heavy with finality. I need some air, some time to think. Without waiting for a response, I grabbed my bag and walked out of the room, slamming the door shut behind me. The sound echoed through the hallway, a punctuation mark on the end of our crumbling relationship. The once romantic European vacation had taken a dark turn. Now, I was alone in a foreign city, the weight of betrayal heavy on my shoulders. What started as a trip to celebrate our love had become a journey of self-discovery, a journey that forced me to confront a harsh truth. The hotel hallway echoed with the sound of my slamming the door. My anger simmered, fueled by the weight of betrayal and the absurdity of her accusations. Back in Rome, the picture on my phone was a tangible piece of evidence, a cruel snapshot of a truth she couldn't deny. Now, in Madrid, the argument replayed in my mind like a broken record. It's your fault. She'd shrieked, her face flushed with fury and embarrassment after the hotel staff reprimanded us. Me? I'd sputtered, incredulous. You're the one who couldn't hold it for 5 minutes. The memory sparked a new thought, a detail that hadn't registered in the heat of the moment. Back in Rome, the unknown number that texted me called her beautiful. Now, after the argument, the way she was clinging to her phone, her face illuminated by the screen. Something didn't add up. I retreated further into the room, the silence thick with tension. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, her back to me, scrolling furiously on her phone. Who are you texting? I blurted out, unable to hold back the question any longer. She jumped, her phone clattering onto the bed. Spinning around, she faced me, a look of panic flashing across her face. Just my mom, she stammered, a touch too quickly. She's worried about everything that happened. Maybe. But the fear in her eyes wasn't just about the argument. It was a deeper fear, a fear of being caught. I inched closer, my gaze fixed on the phone. Let me see, I said, my voice flat and steady. A beat of silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken emotions. "No," she said finally, her voice barely a whisper, clutching the phone tighter. "It's private." Private? From her own boyfriend on a trip funded mostly by him? The answer was clear. This wasn't a conversation about her mom. This was something she desperately wanted to hide. The confirmation sparked a cold fury within me. "Give me the damn phone." "Sarah," I growled, my voice laced with a dangerous edge I didn't recognize. Her eyes widened in fear, but she didn't move. We locked gazes, a silent battle of wills. The air crackled with tension, the room a pressure cooker ready to explode. Suddenly, the phone buzzed again. Sarah flinched, a gasp escaping her lips. This time, I wouldn't wait. In a swift move, I snatched the phone from her grasp. Her cry of protest was drowned out by the notification sound. It was a text message, the sender's name flashing on the screen in bold letters, Mark. My heart hammered in my chest as I unlocked the phone. The message was short, just a single sentence, "Thinking about you. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night." The blood drained from my face. "Tomorrow night?" I repeated, my voice hollow. Sarah lunged for the phone, but I held it just out of reach. Her eyes pleaded with me, a desperate mix of fear and shame. But the damage was done. The truth, laid bare on the screen of her phone, was a cruel confirmation of my suspicions. There was no denying it anymore. The friend in Rome, the unknown number, the late-night texting, it was all him. The anger I felt was a white-hot inferno, consuming all reason. But beneath it, a cold dread settled in my stomach. How long had this been going on? How deep did this betrayal go? The once romantic trip to Europe had become a twisted journey of discovery. And the things I was discovering were far from the happy memories I'd envisioned. The incriminating text message on Sarah's phone burned into my retinas. "Tomorrow night," it taunted, a cruel reminder of her secret plans. My mind raced, a chaotic storm of anger, betrayal, and a sickening sense of violation. But before I could confront her, a wave of exhaustion hit me. The emotional roller coaster of the day had taken its toll. Glancing at Sarah, still fast asleep, I decided to wait. Sleep wouldn't erase the truth, but it might give me some semblance of clarity before the inevitable showdown. The night was a restless one. Images from the day, the argument, the text message, flashed in my mind like a broken projector. Every detail felt magnified, every word a fresh betrayal. Finally, as the first rays of dawn crept through the window, Sarah stirred. She stretched, yawned, and her eyes fluttered open. A moment of blissful ignorance played across her face before she saw me, the phone clutched tightly in my hand. Her eyes widened in horror. "Give me that!" she shrieked, lunging for the phone. But I held it just out of reach. "We need to talk," I said, my voice hoarse from lack of sleep and raw emotion. The defiance in her eyes faltered, replaced by a flicker of fear. "About what?" she mumbled, her voice small. I didn't answer. Instead, I unlocked the phone and scrolled through the message history. My finger stopped at a message exchange from a few days back. It was between her and Mark. "Hey," the message began. "Place looks great. Can't wait to see you again when you're back." Sarah's breath hitched. Her face drained of color, the blood rushing from her cheeks. "Can't wait to see you again?" I repeated, my voice laced with ice. "Where?" "Here, in Madrid." Silence hung heavy in the air, thick and suffocating. Sarah opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Then I saw it. A tiny detail I hadn't noticed before. The address attached to the message. It was the address of our hotel. My heart hammered in my chest. This wasn't some clandestine meeting planned for the future. This was supposed to happen tonight. Right here, under my nose. A cold dread gripped me. Who was Mark? Was he already here, waiting for her? The question hung in the air, a chilling accusation. Sarah's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape, for a lie to tell. But the truth was laid bare on the screen of her phone, a damning web of deceit. The romantic European trip I'd planned, a celebration of our love, had become a twisted nightmare. And this nightmare was far from over. The incriminating address on Sarah's phone sent a jolt through me. My mind raced with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. This wasn't just some emotional betrayal. This was a potential physical danger lurking in the shadows. Who was Mark? I demanded, my voice low and dangerous. Sarah's eyes darted around the room, a cornered animal searching for an escape. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. The lie was flimsy, transparent. Don't play dumb, I growled, shoving the phone with the message in her face. This address. It's our hotel. He was supposed to meet you here? The color drained from her face. Her shoulders slumped, the defiance replaced by a crushing defeat. It's not what it seems, she mumbled, the words barely audible. I didn't bother responding. What could she possibly say that would justify this? The anger that had simmered all night boiled over. Get dressed, I said, my voice tight with barely controlled fury. Where are we going? She asked, a tremor in her voice. We're going to find out who Mark is. I spat, my jaw clenched tight. The air crackled with tension as Sarah shuffled towards the bathroom. I paced the room, my mind churning. This wasn't a simple confrontation anymore. This was about safety. She emerged from the bathroom a few minutes later, her face pale and drawn. We descended to the lobby in a tense silence. The cheery greetings of the hotel staff felt like a cruel mockery in the face of my shattered world. Ask the front desk if anyone by the name of Mark checked in. I instructed Sarah, my voice cold. She hesitated, then approached the receptionist, her voice barely a squeak. The receptionist shook her head, consulting the guest list. No, sir, no one by that name here. A flicker of disappointment, quickly masked by relief, crossed Sarah's face. But I wasn't convinced. Maybe he's using a different name, I muttered, more to myself than to her. Suddenly, a bellhop passing by chimed in. There was a gentleman asking for Miss Sarah earlier this morning, he said, his voice curious. He said he wouldn't be long, but he never came back. My blood ran cold. So, Mark was here. He knew where we were staying. Did you get a description? I pressed, my voice tight with urgency. The bellhop nodded, tall guy, dark hair, kind of looked like a model. The description fit the picture on Sarah's phone perfectly. My heart pounded in my chest. This wasn't some harmless flirtation. This was a planned rendezvous. Did he say where he was going? I asked, a desperate hope clinging to my voice. The bellhop shook his head. Nope, just said he'd be back soon. Soon? I repeated, the word a hollow echo in the vast hotel lobby. The cheerful facade of the trip had crumbled completely. We were no longer tourists exploring Europe. We were characters in a suspenseful drama. The stakes suddenly much higher than a missed Super Bowl or a spilled drink in the hallway. The once romantic getaway had transformed into a dangerous game, and I had no idea who the other players were, or what their endgame might be. The rest of the week in Madrid was a blur of forced smiles and hollow sightseeing. We toured museums, wandered through bustling plazas, and even took a day trip to Toledo, the ancient city perched on a rocky hill. But the joy that should have accompanied these experiences was replaced by a gnawing tension that hung heavy between us. Sarah, seemingly remorseful, clung to me a little too tightly, her laughter a touch too forced. I, on the other hand, found myself constantly glancing over my shoulder, a knot of unease twisting in my gut. Every charming cafe, every bustling market, now felt like a potential hiding place for the mysterious Mark. The phone remained a constant source of suspicion. I'd see her steal glances at it throughout the day, her face lighting up briefly before a flicker of guilt would cloud her features. At night, sleep was a distant dream. I'd lie awake in the dark, replaying the events in Rome, dissecting every conversation, every stolen glance, searching for clues I might have missed. The evidence, despite the lack of a physical confrontation with Mark, was overwhelming. The texts, the picture, the deleted messages, all painted a clear picture of a betrayal that cut deep. But confronting her right then seemed pointless. We were still in the middle of the trip, surrounded by strangers in a foreign country. The anger simmered beneath the surface, a volcano waiting to erupt. Instead, I played along. We went on the pre-booked tours, ate at the fancy restaurants, and even splurged on a flamenco show. Each euro spent felt like a small act of defiance, a way of reclaiming some control from the situation. Deep down, I knew the real conversation, the one that would determine the future of our relationship, loomed large. But for now, I held my breath, waiting for the inevitable moment when the truth would spill out, shattering the fragile facade we were both clinging to. JFK. Familiar sights, but the tension in my gut wouldn't loosen. The romantic getaway was over, but the real journey began confronting the truth. Back in our apartment, silence screamed. Sarah unpacked, avoiding my gaze. "We need to talk," I said, voice flat. "About what?" She mumbled. "Everything. Rome, Madrid, Mark." Her face paled as I showed her the message thread. Tears welled. It wasn't supposed to happen. The apology blur began. Justifications, pleas to salvage things. A deeper connection with Mark, she confessed. But the trust was shattered. The trip, a celebration-turned reminder. Clarity washed over me. The anger, hurt, faded into acceptance. "I don't think this can work," I said, emotionless. Her eyes widened, hope battling despair. She knew. The silence stretched, heavy. We talked logistics, the awkward dance of informing everyone. No dramatics, just the quiet unraveling. The European dream that fractured our bond ended here. We stood in the wreckage, picking up pieces of separate futures. The bitter taste of betrayal lingered, but freedom bloomed alongside it. The nightmare vacation ended, but maybe, just maybe, the waking world. "Okay, calm down, breathe. He'll be here any minute, and you've got to do this. You owe him that, at least." I look ridiculous fussing over these stupid countertops, like everything's normal. Another glance at the clock. Where is he? Maybe it'll be easier if he's a little late. Gives me another minute to what? Find the right words? There are no right words. Need space. The phrase rings hollow in my head. It's the best I could come up with, the least cruel-sounding way to break this. Our life. Jason's life. What the hell am I doing? A wave of nausea hits, and for a second, I think I might actually throw up this half-eaten salad that's been my dinner for the past week. Nope. Can't do that. Imagine explaining that to him. The front door slams. Jason's home. God, he smells like the Little League team he coaches. A good smell, usually. One that used to make me smile. Now it just makes something clench tight in my chest. I force the smile anyway. Old habits die hard, I guess. "Hey, how was the game?" My voice sounds too high, too brittle. "Way to play it normal, Emily. We won." Man, what a last inning. He's off and running, already lost in baseball stories, and I can't catch a breath. Like I'm drowning, and that endless monologue of his is the weight on my chest. Dinner is a blur of pretending to eat and offering the occasional, at what I assume are the right moments. He's not an idiot. Has he noticed how distant I've been? Has he connected that to Mark? My cheeks flush just thinking his name, but it's mixed with this sick twist of excitement I hate myself for. "You good?" "You're awfully quiet." Jason finally seems to notice, bless his simple, baseball-loving soul. Lie time. Tired, long week. I hate my voice, the tremor in it. "Okay, well, don't stay up on my account." He heads off to the den, the TV flickering on with its familiar drone of sportscasters. My chance. I stand up, legs wobbly, and practically run for the bedroom. "Headache," I offer in a pathetic attempt at an excuse, closing the door softly with a click that feels like a gunshot. Here I am, hiding like a teenager from the scary decision I've already made. Pathetic. But what else am I supposed to do? I sink onto the bed, curling into a ball with the weight of it all. There are tears, I know, but they barely register anymore. Underneath it all is this desperate buzzing. Like I'm about to jump out of my skin. Not from fear, weirdly, but this other thing. It's a damn relief, in a horrifying way, that this is finally happening. The house creaks as it settles, an accusing sound in the sudden silence. That's the thing about quiet, it gives your guilty conscience an awfully loud megaphone. Jason's truck rumbles away, and the relief is a physical thing, a tightness in my chest finally easing. Then, the shame floods in. I should be missing him, worrying about his silly little conference. Instead, the only thing prickling at my skin is the anticipation of, what? Another text from Mark? More of the breathless, dangerous conversations that are turning me into someone I don't recognize. I sink into a steaming bath, hoping the water will wash away the feeling that I'm spiraling out of control. The scent of lavender is supposed to be calming. All I smell is a desperate attempt to cover up the stink of betrayal. Mark texts, of course. Silly jokes, shared memories from a time when I thought his attention was just friendly. Now, each word crackles with a different energy. My hands shake as I type back, faster than I should. It feels like playing with fire, but the thrill outweighs the terror. For now, days bleed together in a haze of whispers and stolen glances at my phone. I move through our routines on autopilot. Cooking, laundry, a peck on the cheek when Jason comes home, it all feels like some play I'm acting in, badly. Every time he calls me, honey, it makes me want to scream. He must sense something's off. He's less distracted now, eyes lingering on me over the dinner table. That used to feel comforting. Now, it's like he's trying to piece together something he doesn't quite see, and part of me wants him to find out. To rip the band-aid off this festering lie. But even that thought is tainted. Not because I'm brave enough to tell the truth. No, the sick part is, I'm waiting for him to slip up. A late-night text, a trace of perfume. Something that'll give me permission for this, a way to blame him when I'm the one who broke us. The phone's tucked away when he's near. I lie through my teeth about work calls and old friends catching up. He tries to bridge the gap, talking more at dinner, suggesting a movie night. Just like we used to. It's torture, this play acting of a life we both know is dead. One night, as we lie side by side in the two big bed, his breathing even with sleep, I reach for the phone. It's a compulsion now. Each text from Mark lights a fuse in me, one I know will lead to an explosion. I just don't know yet if it'll destroy me or set me free. I swear I haven't been this jittery since I snuck out of the house to meet boys back in high school. Maybe it's just the extra shot of espresso in my latte, or maybe it's the fact that I'm sitting across from Mark with his disarming smile and a dangerous undercurrent humming between us that has nothing to do with caffeine. So, how's Jason? His voice is low, just for me. It makes my ears burn. Fine. Busy with the team, I mumble into my coffee, unable to meet his gaze. Lies are easier over text, less real. Now, here in this bustling cafe with sunlight glinting off his stupid, handsome face, the guilt takes on a flesh and bones kind of ugliness. We talk, but it's a dance of unspoken things. Casual touches that linger too long, memories shared that only deepen whatever the hell this is between us. I laugh too loud, aware of how different I must seem from the predictable Emily he thought he knew. The thrill of it is laced with a terror I refuse to acknowledge fully. As we finally leave, a hand grazes my lower back and stays there just a second too long. The touch sends a jolt through me. When I pull away, his eyes flash with something I recognize a little too well. Hunger. The drive home is a blur. Should I turn up the radio? Hide? Drown out the buzzing in my head? No. The silence matches perfectly with the awful truth. I crave that touch, however reckless, however wrong. Walking in the door, seeing Jason by the grill is jarring. The smell of burgers brings a wave of nausea, not appetite. Damn this normal life I'm trampling all over. Hey, you're just in time. Brought you a beer, Jason beams, waving a spatula. It feels like an accusation. The worst part? I plaster a smile on my face and play the happy wife. Just when I think I've gotten away with it, Sarah's car pulls in the driveway. Of course, she would pick today for a random visit. Sarah's always been too perceptive for comfort. Her hugs are tight, her smile's genuine, but her eyes? They bore holes in you. Like she knows all your messy secrets and is waiting for you to trip up. Today, I can practically feel the X-ray intensity of those eyes on me. You seem, I don't know, different, she says over dinner, and my heart pounds a frantic tattoo in my ears. Does she know? Impossible, right? I laugh awkwardly, forcing down the greasy food that turns to ash in my mouth. They chat about baseball, family gossip, work, the dull drumbeat of life that usually lulls me into a comforting numbness. Tonight, each word is a clanging bell, a reminder of everything I'm destroying. Hours later, as I lie next to Jason, the quiet hum of the air conditioner is no match for the screaming in my head. This is just a taste of the hell to come. Every visit, every phone call, every sideways glance from Sarah will be another twist of the knife. I've trapped myself, and the walls are closing in. The words, "I can't stop thinking about you," hang in the air of my car like a poisonous cloud. They should be deleted, forgotten. My hands shake too much. I shove the phone in my bag, swearing it's the last time. "Liar," whispers the voice in my head that's grown too loud lately. The park looks innocent enough in the early morning light. Birds chirp in the trees, a jogger bounces by, the picture of healthy routine. I feel like a walking disease. How could I do this? Right here where Jason and I had picnics in those early, earnest years. Mark appears, suddenly solid amidst the hazy guilt swirling in my stomach. He's less sure of himself now, the bravado replaced with something almost gentle. It makes it worse. This isn't just a tawdry fling, it's messing with someone's heart as well as my own wreck of a marriage. "Emily, we shouldn't." He starts, but the words trail off as I move closer, a desperation I can't name pushing me. The kiss hits me like a grave crashing over rocks. Rough, messy, a battle between years of dormant longing and the shrieking voice of reason in my head. Finally, I break away, the sound of my ragged breathing filling the sudden silence. "I'm sorry, that was. I don't know what I'm doing," I stammer. Mark steps closer, fingers tracing my jawline. His touch is wildfire, the part of me that craves chaos responding with a jolt. "Don't be," he murmurs. "We both want this, right?" It's a lie, but the truth is uglier. I nod, because admitting out loud that I want to set my life on fire makes me the villain of a story I no longer control. Getting home requires an act of willpower I'm not sure I possess. Each mile blurs, headlights turning into Jason's accusing eyes. Walking in the door, seeing the untouched breakfast plate he left me, is a fresh kind of torture. "Hey, where were you?" His voice is cheerful, and it's like a knife in my gut. "Just errands." The life falls flat, and he must sense it, because his brow furrows ever so slightly. The ache in my chest isn't just guilt now, it's the knowledge that this is only the beginning of the wreckage. My days are divided into two stark halves. The blazing intensity of stolen moments with Mark, and the gray, suffocating blur of my life with Jason. It's like stepping off a cliff and landing on a feather bed, over and over again. Text messages have become my drug. Each notification is a shot of adrenaline, even when it's something as mundane as "on my lunch break, thinking of you." It's the stolenness, the thrill that I shouldn't be feeling, that makes it addictive. At home, I may shell. Conversations with Jason fall flat. His attempts at reconnecting. The vase of roses left on the table, the tickets for a band we both used to love, smother me. They're a constant spotlight on my betrayal. With Sarah, it's worse. Family dinners, where once I could hide in polite chatter, now become minefields. "You two seem so distant lately," she says one evening. My eyes meet Jason's across the table. Did he notice the flicker of panic that crossed my face? "Just tired. Long week," I manage, but the lie tastes sour in my mouth. It's not just Sarah, though. I'm lying to myself on a minute-by-minute basis. I baked Jason his favorite pie, to make up for being so distant. I linger when he hugs me goodnight, to pretend this still feels like home. Each act of deception compounds, making me hate myself more. Jason sees it, of course he does. He's not an idiot. He doesn't confront me, but the worry in his eyes is its own kind of accusation. The worst part? The guilt doesn't stop me. Each text to Mark, each rendezvous in a parking lot, feels like taking a much-needed breath of air, and I'm drowning. One evening, we're at dinner, just us. The clink of silverware against plates is excruciating in the thick silence. Suddenly, my phone buzzes with that heart-stopping notification sound. Jason looks up, startled. "Everything okay?" Frantic. I snatch the phone. It's Mark, stupidly a picture. Him grinning, a half-eaten sandwich in hand. The caption, "Wish you were here." Yeah, just chill. Work stuff. I stammer, deleting the photo with shaking fingers. I shove the phone in my pocket, but the damage is done. His expression, it's not accusing, exactly. Just wounded. That trusting openness he always had, the thing that drew me to him, now looks so fragile. It makes me want to crawl into a hole and disappear. I snap over some stupid thing later, a misplaced salt shaker becoming the fuel for a blazing argument. Jason looks at me, bewildered. It's like he doesn't even recognize the angry stranger I've become. And the terrible thing is, he's right. The anniversary of Jason's father's death dawns heavy and humid. It always brings out this quiet ache in him, a withdrawn sadness I've never known how to reach. There's a tightness in my chest mirroring his own, but mine is born from dread, not grief. Going to visit him later, he mumbles over a bowl of cereal he barely touches. A wave of nausea hits me. Will he find Mark in those old memories along with his dad's ghost? Will this be the day my flimsy house of cards comes crashing down? He spends most of the day in the garage, the kind of project-focused disappearing act he uses to cope. I should help, try to bridge the gulf between us. Instead, guilt and fear keep me frozen, hovering uselessly at the edge of the kitchen. When he comes in, there's dust on his jeans and a strange look in his eyes. Less sadness, more intensity. Did he find what I fear? Let's clean out the attic, he says abruptly. Time we got rid of those old boxes. My insides go icy. The attic, where everything goes to be forgotten. Or, apparently, discovered. The cardboard box feels too heavy, like I'm hauling up the physical weight of all my lies. Inside, it's a jumble of dusty nostalgia, Jason's childhood toys, yellowed photo albums. And then, my heart stops. There, unmistakable, a faded photo. Mark, grinning into the camera, his arm slung casually over a younger Jason's shoulder. It's a college party, I realize sickeningly. How could I have forgotten this? How could I have missed that they knew each other? Jason is right behind me. Care to explain this? His voice is low, almost menacing. I turn to face him. The photo flutters to the floor. It's pointless now, Jason. I start, then stop. There are no words, no excuses. His silence is worse than any shouting. He's not even looking at me anymore. Just staring at the photo, his face hardening into a mask of cold anger. Finally, he speaks. How long? The question cuts through the air like a knife. I want to lie, make it less, minimize it. Instead, the truth spills out, a bitter torrent. He listens, unmoving. Each word must feel like a physical blow. It's more than I deserve, this chance to confess. But it also feels like the slam of the prison door behind me. When I finish, the silence stretches for an eternity. Finally, he turns away, the slump of his shoulders a silent accusation. Leave, he says, his voice hoarse. Just leave for tonight. And with that, my world collapses. I have no idea where to go, what to do. All I know is I have to obey. The truth hangs in the air between us, a toxic cloud. It's worse than I'd even imagined. Not the fury of a man betrayed, which I somehow deserved, but this bone-deep disappointment. Seeing Jason like this, broken where I thought he was strong, is its own special kind of hell. His questions whip through the air. When did it start? How could you? Each one is a knife, yet somehow quieter, more devastating than any yelling. There's a finality to his tone, a sense that the answers don't matter. I am beyond fixing. The sobs have been choking back explode out of me. I can't bear to see the revulsion in his eyes, can't stomach the accusatory echo of his voice in our once safe home. I run, stumble up the stairs like a wounded animal, the force of my own shame of physical pain. The guest room, it's always been a blank canvas, holding the unspoken promise of a future that never happened. Now, the space mocks me. Tears blur the faded wallpaper, the untouched crib a cruel reminder of the life I've dynamited. Hours pass, or maybe only minutes. Every creak of the floorboards makes me cringe. Finally, I venture out, my footsteps hesitant. Jason sits at the kitchen table, head buried in his hands. The sight cuts me all over again. He looks so small, so defeated. I am a monster for causing this. A strange flicker of something like pity stirs within me. Is this the path forward? Me, the destroyer. Could I be the one to rebuild? Jason, I whisper, hating the tremble in my voice. His head jerks up, his face is ravaged, a decade older than it was this morning. The silence stretches unbearably. He opens his mouth, then closes it. Can we just talk? I beg, because the silence of this shattered kitchen is worse than any words he could say. He doesn't answer, but slowly, he pushes back his chair, a single small movement that contains a glimmer of hope I hardly dare to hold on to. My steps towards that table feel like the longest mile, the beginning of what, I don't know. An ending, for certain. But maybe, just maybe, among the wreckage, the start of something else entirely. The envelope sits on the counter like a bomb. I know what it is before I even open it. Divorce papers. My hands shake as I pick it up, the weight of it far more than just paper and ink. Jason's signature is on the last page. Bold, unwavering. It's the finality of it that breaks me. The tears come hot and fast, staining the legal jargon. This time, the pain is deeper than guilt. This is the harsh, cold reality of the choice I made, the life I detonated. We coexist like ghosts in the days that follow. Half-eaten meals. Awkward shuffles in the hallway. Both of us avoiding the spaces that used to be ours. I overhear bits of his conversation with Sarah, her voice sharp with anger, his filled with a resignation that echoes in my own chest. My betrayal isn't just ours anymore. The whole damn town knows now. They used to be friendly faces at the grocery store, at Jason's games. Now, their eyes flick away in hushed whispers. The judgment isn't shouted, but I feel it burning my skin all the same. Then there's Mark. Or rather, his absence. The texts I send in frantic moments of weakness go unanswered, like stones tossed into a void. Typical. It makes me want to scream and laugh all at once at the ridiculousness of it all. One morning, I wake to an empty house. He's left for work as usual, but the stack of envelopes on the counter is gone. All that's left is the faint impression of his signature and the lingering sting of loss. I sign the papers. My own hand feels like a stranger's. The scratching of the pen against the thick legal paper sounds like nails on a coffin. This is how my old life dies. Not with a bang, but with the quiet surrender of a signature. Pen_spark. But there's a flicker deep down, something beyond the despair. Anger? Resolve? It's faint, but it's there. I won't crawl away and disappear. I've broken things enough already. Sarah shows up unexpectedly. I brace for confrontation, but her face is drawn, her usual sharpness softened. We make awkward cups of tea, the ritual a flimsy attempt at normalcy. He never deserved this, she says finally, and despite myself, there's a flicker of gratitude in me for her brutal honesty. I know, it's all I can manage. To my surprise, her anger shifts, then settles. Her next words are a bucket of ice water to the face. He always settled. Everyone thought he was lucky to have someone like you. But he wanted more. Didn't have the guts to say it. The words ignite something in me. Was Jason as much a victim in this as I was? The idea twists in my gut, a new flavor of betrayal to wrestle with. I find that forgotten job offer, crumpled in a drawer. A relocation, a promotion, a chance at something else. Suddenly, it's too tempting. I make the call, and my own voice surprises me with its newfound determination. The ache is there, always. Not the sharp, crippling grief of the early days, but a dull echo reminding me that some wounds never fully close. Yet, there's a life built around it now. A small apartment that's entirely mine, its messiness a comforting rebellion against my old, perfect suburban life. A job that pays the bills, offers the occasional challenge. Friendships, formed cautiously with the knowledge that trust is an easily shattered thing. News reaches me like an old postcard from a place you never quite forget. Jason's remarried, a quick web search confirms it. Photos of him with another woman, smiling the wide, carefree smile I never saw. A pang hits, surprising in its intensity. Then, a strange sense of relief washes over me. Proof he's found happiness, a sliver of absolution for the hurt I cause. The seaside was never my idea. An impulsive weekend getaway, a search for, what, exactly? Serenity, maybe. Still, the sea has always held a brutal honesty that the city lacks. It's fitting, then, that my ghost would find me here. Emily, his voice carries on the sea breeze, hesitant. I turn to see Mark, older, a touch of weariness marring the boyish charm he once wielded like a weapon. The apologies spill out, jumbled, hollow. He explains, or tries to, the cowardice that sent him fleeing those years ago. I listen, not because I care, but because it helps to see him clearly at last. A small, scared man who'd always run from anything real. I'm sorry, he finally manages, those words too little, too late. Me too, I say, and I mean it. Sorry for him, for me, for the messy way choices ripple outward, shaping lives they never intended to. I leave him there, sipping his weak coffee in the fading sunlight. The beach stretches out before me, vast and empty. It's a clean slate, just like my new life had been. Both hold the salty scent of tears, but also the promise of starting anew. My thoughts drift to Jason, to Sarah with her unwavering honesty. The regret remains, a constant companion. But underneath, there's something else. A stubborn spark that got me through the darkest days, a will to survive that was always there, buried deep. I inhale the sea air. It stings, but it's a good kind of pain. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of bruised purple and gold, I turn my back on the ghosts. Whatever the future holds, it's mine to face. The first few steps feel tentative, then stronger. I walk towards the unknown, the waves crashing against the shore, a steady rhythm matching the fierce beat of my own.